Have you ever stopped to wonder which, specific natural compounds are just absolutely booming right now? We're talking growth. Well, it's almost hard to believe. Today, we're diving deep into the global Linarin market. It's a fascinating one, a real rising star in this whole natural compound space. Now, for anyone maybe not too familiar, Linarin, it's a natural flavonoid. You find it in plants, things like flax, citrus fruits, and it's really starting to get noticed for its potential uses in things like nutraceuticals, functional foods, maybe even some pharma applications. So our mission today is simple. Unpack the honestly remarkable numbers and insights from MarketView. We're relying entirely on the detailed data from cognitive market research. We'll explore how Linarin is expanding globally, figure out where it's really, hitting its stride, and try to make sense of what it all means for you. Okay, let's start with the big picture, because the Linarin market isn't just growing, it feels like it's really accelerating, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. The scale of the shift is quite something.
Right. The global value was, just under $470 million in 2021, $468.809 million to be exact. But here's the kicker. It's forecast to jump to nearly $780 million by 2025. And then, hold on to your hats, potentially $2.14 billion, that's billion with a B, by 2033.
Wow.
Yeah, and that reflects a compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of 13.5%. Pretty rapid.
That kind of sustained double-digit growth for a natural compound, it really signals something significant, doesn't it? It suggests, a really strong global demand, probably linked to this bigger trend towards natural health solutions. And maybe new research backing up Linarin's benefits is opening doors in different industries too.
Exactly. But here's where it gets, I think, really interesting when you drill down into the regions, because the growth isn't the same everywhere. Some places are just, rocketing ahead. Let's talk Asia-Pacific first. It's clearly the leader here. The report calls its growth particularly robust, and it has the highest AGR.
Oh, yes. APAC is definitely the powerhouse in this story.
For sure. Look at the numbers. Revenue there went from about $114 million in 2021 to almost $195 million forecast for 2025, and then projected to hit a massive $642 million by 2033. The specific CAGR for Asia-Pacific, a staggering 16.119%. That's way above the global average.
16%, that's huge.
It is. And you see massive contributions from specific countries. China, for example, jumping from roughly $36 million up to nearly $200 million by 2033. India soaring, too, from around $16 million to almost $97 million. Japan's another big one, $19 million to over $93 million.
Right.
Plus, you've got South Korea, Australia, Singapore, Southeast Asia, all logging double-digit growth as well. It's widespread there.
And when you think about why Asia-Pacific, especially places like China and India, it's often that combination, isn't it? You've got rapidly growing middle classes, more disposable income.
Well, strong cultural history with natural remedies or compounds like Linarin just fit right in. Plus, there's often significant investment in health and wellness sectors in those developing economies. They can adopt innovations quickly, but still have tons of room to grow.
That makes sense. It's like the perfect storm for growth. Okay, so shifting gears a bit. How does Linarin fare in, say, more established Western economies?
Let's look at North America. It's definitely a significant contributor. Revenue grew from about $169 million in 2021 to almost $277 million by 2025. And the projection? Over $716 million by 2033.
Still very strong numbers.
Yeah, the CAGR there is a solid 12.631%. And within North America, the U.S. is just massive. It accounts for a huge chunk, $131 million in 2021, climbing to over $538 million projected for 2033.
Wow, okay, so the U.S. market is really driving that.
Absolutely. Canada's growing too, from $16 million up to nearly $69 million. And Mexico, quite impressive, from about $22 million to over $109 million.
So North America's growth, it's maybe slightly less explosive than APAC's rate, but it's still really compelling. The drivers here are probably a bit different, right? You've got strong consumer demand, but maybe more focused on scientifically validated natural products.
Right. The whole nutraceutical industry is well developed there.
Exactly. And that general push away from synthetic ingredients, it's a more mature market perhaps. So growth might come more from deeper penetration into existing products or finding new innovative ways to use Linarin.
Okay, let's cross the Atlantic, Europe. Also showing steady, pretty robust expansion. The market went from nearly $125 million in 2021 to over $203 million by 2025. Predicted to hit over $521 million by 2033. The CAGR, 12.475%. very close to North America's.
Interesting. Consistent.
Very consistent. And you see strong contributions across the board. The UK, $17 million to over $63 million. Germany, almost $24 million up to over $93 million. France, about $15 million to over $71 million. Italy, $11 million to over $54 million.
So widespread growth there, too.
Definitely. Even Russia shows growth, $6.7 million to $21.7 million. And this rest of Europe category is actually soaring from $25 million to over $144 million.
Europe's always fascinating. You get this mix of, very established health markets alongside growing consumer awareness. Regulations often play a bigger role there too, right?
Yeah.
Affecting how quickly something like Linarin gets adopted into different products.
Yeah.
But that steady growth across so many major economies, it suggests a pretty broad acceptance. Linarin's likely finding its way into supplements, maybe cosmetics, things like that.
All right, let's cover the other regions, South America and the Middle East, both showing actually pretty impressive gains.
Yeah, these are interesting ones.
South America grew from just under $26 million in 2021 to over $44 million by 2025, projected to expand to over $131 million by 2033. Brazil's a standout there, climbing from $9.6 million to nearly $48 million.
Significant jump for Brazil.
And then the Middle East. Market size rose from about $21 million in 2021 to nearly $36 million in 2025. Forecasts point to almost $105 million by 2033. Saudi Arabia showing strong growth too, from $7 million to over $36 million.
These regions, South America and the Middle East, they often represent these emerging markets, right? Economies are developing quickly, healthcare sectors are growing. In South America, especially Brazil, you see that rising middle class, more health consciousness driving demand. In the Middle East, sometimes there's that push to diversify economies, leading to investment in areas like health and wellness, which helps compounds like Linarin.
Okay, last but not least, Africa. The picture here seems a bit more nuanced. Total revenue moved from $13.2 million in 2021 to just over $23 million by 2025, expected to reach nearly $27 million by 2033. The report mentions a more modest CAGR for the continent overall.
Right, the overall number seems smaller compared to others.
Yeah, looking at specific countries, Nigeria rose from $1.8 million to $3.9 million. South Africa from about $5 million to $9.5 million.
But, and this is a really important point you picked up from the data, while the overall African market growth looks modest, that rest of Africa segment that tells a different story.
Ah, right. I saw that. It jumps from about $10 million to over $52 million by 2033.
Exactly. Which suggests there are some really dynamic, maybe just less concentrated pockets of growth happening across the continent.
So it's not uniform at all.
Not at all. It highlights that, broad regional summaries can sometimes hide these really interesting local dynamics. There's clearly innovation and demand there, maybe just not hitting the scale of the bigger economies yet. Definitely worth watching.
So let's pull this all together. What does this deep dive mean for you, listening in, wanting to stay informed on these trends? I mean, it clearly shows potent, widespread global demand for Linarin. This natural compound is popping up more and more.
Absolutely. And if we connect it to the bigger picture, that consistent double-digit growth, especially the sort of explosive path in Asia-Pacific, it points to a rapidly expanding global market for natural compounds overall. So if you're tracking health and wellness, or maybe even looking at investment opportunities in, say, biotech or nutraceuticals, Linarin's story is a great example of how targeted demand for specific natural ingredients can really take off.
Yeah.
But seeing how differently it plays out region by region, that's a fascinating lesson in global market dynamics itself. It's not one size fits all.
So we've journeyed through these, frankly, impressive numbers for the global Linarin market, seeing it surge from under $500 million to potentially over $2 billion in just over a decade, driven so strongly by places like Asia-Pacific and North America. It's quite the story, and leaves us with a thought, doesn't it? As demand for natural compounds like Linarin keeps climbing so rapidly, what specific applications or uses or maybe even consumer demands are really fueling this surge for this particular compound? What new breakthroughs or preferences might unlock even more potential? And how could that shape the future of health and wellness products worldwide? Something to think about.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're exploring Linarin. It's this natural compound that seems to be popping up everywhere in health discussions. Our goal, to really unpack what's driving its popularity, look at the real challenges it faces, and explore what might be next. And just so you know, all our insights today are drawn from the latest analysis by Cognitive Market Research. Okay, so let's get right into it. What's really behind the buzz? What's driving this remarkable rise of Linarin?
Well, a huge factor is just the sheer growth of the cognitive health supplement market. I mean, we're talking about an industry expected to hit over $17 billion by 2031.
Mm.
That's a massive wave, and Linarin is riding it.
Okay, $17 billion is huge, but where does Linarin specifically fit? What makes it like the next big thing for nootropics aimed at boosting brain function?
It really comes down to its mechanism. Linarin acts as a selective acetylcholinesterase inhibitor. Basically, it helps maintain levels of certain brain chemicals important for memory, for focus. Plus, preclinical studies show these neuroprotective effects, which is really promising for, overall brain health.
Interesting. Anything else making it stand out from the crowd?
Yeah, actually. What's also getting attention is its anti-inflammatory activity. It seems to target some key biological pathways involved in inflammation. This makes it really appealing for, especially for plant-based supplements and functional foods, which people are increasingly looking for.
And I suppose the increased R&D in natural products helps too, that general trend.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Linarin has this wide range of biological effects, not just neuroprotective, but potentially anti-cancer activity too.
Yep.
That kind of versatility is very attractive to innovators in both the pharmaceutical and nutraceutical spaces. They see potential for multiple applications.
It definitely sounds like it has a lot going for it, but like with many things that seem promising, there have got to be some roadblocks, right? What are the big hurdles here?
Yeah, there definitely are. One of the most significant is its oral bioavailability. It's extremely low. Some studies have measured it at less than 0.5%. So you take it, but almost none of it actually gets absorbed effectively into your system.
Less than 0.5%. Wow. So what does that mean practically, like for someone actually trying to use it?
It means it's really, really difficult to get enough of the compound into your body to have a therapeutic effect just by taking it orally. That's a major challenge. And then there's the clinical trial situation.
Ah, right. The human data.
Exactly. There's a lack of large-scale human clinical trials. The preclinical stuff looks good, but without robust human data, getting regulatory approval is tough. And it really limits the health claims companies can actually make on labels.
And what about just getting the Linarin itself? Is purifying it straightforward?
No, not at all. Getting it to high purity levels, like over 95%, is complex and expensive. It involves pretty advanced chromatographic techniques. So, yeah, the cost and complexity mean it's mostly viable for research right now, or maybe some very niche, high-end premium products.
Okay, so we have low absorption, not enough human trials, and it's tough to purify. Facing all that, how are people trying to move forward? What are the sort of cutting-edge trends to overcome this?
Well, a really key area is focusing on new delivery systems. The goal is to boost that bioavailability problem. Researchers are exploring things like encapsulating Linarin in liposomes or nanoparticles. Think of them like tiny delivery trucks protecting the Linarin. Or pairing it with bioenhancers. Piperine from black pepper is a common one they're looking at to help improve absorption.
Right, piperine is used quite a bit for that. So these new delivery methods, does that help with consistency and reliability for consumers down the line?
That's the idea. And it ties into another trend. Standardized, high-potency extracts. The field is moving away from just, raw plant powder towards extracts that guarantee a specific, consistent amount of Linarin per dose. That precision is critical, not just for reliable supplements, but also for conducting meaningful clinical trials.
Makes sense. Are they also looking at combining it with other compounds, like creating synergistic formulas?
Absolutely. That's a big area of interest. Combining Linarin with other nootropic agents, or maybe other anti-inflammatory compounds, the thinking is that hitting multiple biological pathways at once might boost the overall effectiveness. Sort of a sum is greater than its parts approach.
So it's really fascinating. Linarin is sitting right at this intersection of, nature, advanced science, and the demands of the market. And it's tackling some pretty big challenges with some clever innovation.
Exactly. And if you step back, the whole story of Linarin really underscores a broader point. Just knowing a compound has potential based on lab studies, that's only part of the equation. Figuring out how to deliver it effectively and then proving it works rigorously in humans, that's just as vital, maybe even more so, to unlock its actual promise.
Yeah, that's a great point. It makes you think, doesn't it? With all these novel delivery systems and the focus on synergistic formulas, what kind of new frontiers in health and wellness could compounds like Linarin open up in the next few years? Definitely something to keep an eye on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive today.